Hey everyone, we got quite a sad one today. Didn't really want to. I've been involved with the Nick Sandman and Nathan Phillips escapade for the last couple days. Seems like, and that one is still pretty strong to me. I kind of want to still keep covering that, with all the twists and turns that's been taking. We ended up having another pretty important story that's not being widely covered, and I'm guessing it's probably not being widely covered because they've a lot of major news sources have jumped the bandwagon on two of the last supposed big stories in the last week. Again, the one that I just mentioned recently with the MAGA hat kids, and then also the supposed two anonymous sources that were going to supposedly get Trump out of office. So those all turned to be big bags of nothing and overhype and just hurting people. And I think that the media is probably aware that they need to chill out for a little bit. So what we're going to end up doing is just kind of going over what happened here. And I'm in Florida, in a place called Sebring, Florida. There's a 21-year-old named Zephen, I believe, Zephen, Zephen Xaver. I'm going to call him Murder Munster because he looks like Herman Munster. And he doesn't deserve any better than that. And anyways, he killed 5 women at a SunTrust Bank in Sebring, Florida on Wednesday afternoon, probably about 12:30 p.m.-ish. And yeah, it's rocked the town. It hasn't really rocked the media much. And again, I think that's what I just mentioned is part of the reason, but there's probably other reasons as well. And we'll get into that here in a second. Xavier, though, a little bit about him. He had quit his job as a prison guard trainee a couple of months ago in Indiana, and he has since moved to Sebring, I guess to start a new life or something. And he was a little bit about his past. He had been kicked out of high school for dreaming he had killed his classmates, and I guess he must have been bragging about it on in school, and stuff like that isn't tolerated. But again, that's another big red flag, that we'll discuss a little bit later. But the school to detail for the school to have record of something that horrendous for a student to say, and for this person to still be able to obtain a gun is beyond me. And again, we're going to get into this in a bit. Well, he had a couple of friends. He had told his friends that he wanted to join the military so that he could kill people. He also had a girlfriend. Her name is Alex Gerlach or something like that. And Alex ended up, informing the Gerlach. They met at a psychiatric hospital in 2013 and in Indiana. And they were dating off and on for a while, but then their relationship got rocky because he was, I guess, getting depressed a lot, and she just didn't want to deal with that emotion. So she left him, but I think they still remained in contact. Alex Gerlach was her name, and she informed a couple of people. I'm not sure what specific people, if it was authority figures, officers, the people at the psychiatric ward, because that's where they met, at the psychiatric ward, psychiatric hospital, I should say. And she told a lot of people that he was fascinated with killing, and no one had taken her seriously. And while she was telling these people, the authorities now that she's in contact with, she expressed remorse for the situation, wondering why it had to come to this. And in my opinion, she's like an unsung hero. Not a hero because these people, their lives were taken, but if people around her were to have done, the people that she told were to have done the right thing and at least followed up with some of these claims, this could have possibly been prevented. Probably could have. And that's the part that's very sad to me, with this whole scenario. There was one of his friends, I believe the friend chose to remain anonymous, told authorities, or told news probably as well, that on Tuesday he had received an instant message, I believe, probably on a social media platform, with Xaver trying to reach out for help. And But that person didn't reach back to Xaver because I guess there was something about a friend that they didn't want to offend a friend or something like that. That person ends up blaming himself, and I want to tell you this, if you're watching this video, this isn't your fault. People are like this. This man is like this. He's had this all his life, from what it seems like, and this, you need to let go of that guilt. You obviously didn't see the message at that point in time because you weren't thinking anything. This wasn't in your mind. You just don't know what people are capable of. It sounds like you're a young person. If you say you're a friend with this person, it sounds like you're young. So I wouldn't put too much weight on that. This person is, Xaver is solely to blame. Nobody else. Xaver is. Overall, though, and I want to get back to just explaining what happened here. The attack took place at 12:30 on Wednesday. What was that, January 23rd? Yeah, January 23rd. And he basically walked into the bank where the 5 women were alone, and he had them all go face down, lay face down. I'm not sure how it went about, but let's just, I guess, assume that and I hate assuming, but I mean, they were all found face down, so I'm assuming he had them all come out face down, and he was circling them, and he shot them all individually, and shell casings were found all around their bodies. So yeah, disgusting man shoots 5 helpless women. Some of them, one of them just recently started her job there. The stories coming from these people. One of them, I looked at the photos and of the victims here, the ones that they actually published. There's a couple that I think are being kept private, legally private. But one of them, wow, totally reminded me of my mom, and this story kind of hit me a little bit harder because of that. She looked just like her, and it just, when I saw that picture, I'm like, wow, my mom, for those of you who don't know, my mom passed away a couple years back of ovarian cancer, and it was a very, very difficult thing for the family to go through, and she suffered through it. And she always had a hard life, but she had a good husband, my stepdad, and an excellent husband, excellent father, and she raised great kids. In my opinion, she did. I feel she did. And she always provided for her kids. Anyways, I'm going off the deep end. I apologize. But that's one of the reasons why this story just her. Her name was Marisol one of the victims, not my mom. My mom has a different name that I won't be revealing. So yeah, after he shot, he was circling the people, and I guess during this time there was a woman who tried to go into the bank, but the doors were locked, and when she looked inside the windows as it was locked, she noticed that Xaver was circling around the 5 women laying down on the ground, and so she called 911. But I think it was a little before that he had called 911 as well. She called 911. The person outside the window called 911 because she eventually heard a gunshot, and he called 911. He refused to surrender for about an hour. SWAT then decided that they were going to take their armored vehicle and just ram it through the front doors. They did, and the fucking coward. They found him in one of the back offices, and he was wearing a 4 Horsemen's shirt, and that says a lot about this guy's character. It says a lot about what he was intending to do that day. He wasn't seeking help. This was premeditated, pre-planned. You knew exactly what you were doing, bud. You knew exactly what you were doing. They shouldn't even call you bud. So yeah, we have that going on. Gun purchase. Apparently he had purchased a gun allegedly about a week ago. I would assume probably a little bit more than that, or maybe it was a week ago, but I mean, the girlfriend basically said that he was telling people that he just recently purchased a gun. They thought nothing of it because he always liked firearms. So yeah, there is that. And so I'm not sure why at that point they didn't think to report, but again, he's never done anything up to this point. So I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that against them, and I'm not putting anything against the other people. This is 100,000% Xaver's fault. So the charges, after he was arrested, he has been formally charged this morning, Thursday, on 5 counts of felony capital murder, and he's held without bond. Sad part is, nobody sees a motive. Nobody sees a motive yet, and I've been trying to piece this whole thing together, and again, this isn't going to be a conclusive video. It's just kind of my opinion about some things, and we'll go ahead and get to some of the questions that I have, some of the notes that I've just thought of. So first item, this again is not being hard on the bank, but there's not a lot of pressure right now in regards to the bank and their security. I'm not seeing any indication that there was security there. So maybe this also could have been prevented with if security was available. You would think at a bank, I mean, I don't walk into banks anymore. I just usually go through the window, but I would assume that there's security there. There should be. Apparently not. Now, there's no motive yet, like I said, but the messages that the police uncovered, they found that Xaver liked to fantasize about suicide by cop and taking hostages. Now, this fucker decided to cower out and not even be brave enough to face the officers on his own. He's probably like cowering in the back room and stuff, and you know, it is what it is at that point. So one of the other things that a lot of people are upset about is that, oh, you know, he's a white kid and or he looks white, and he was taken in by officers without issue. You know, everybody's like, oh, it's because he's white, it's because he's white, it's because he's white. No. There's protocols that officers follow, and he probably willfully surrendered. And when you willfully surrender and you don't fight back against the officer, no matter what kind of a crime you committed, you will be taken in. You won't get shot or killed. I don't see how people can not do the simple math there. So don't blame this on, oh, he's white, that's why he didn't get shot by the officers. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not how law works. So now the firearm. I would like to find out more about this. This is the part that really puzzles me. I didn't research a lot about, I don't know a lot about Florida's gun laws, how there's loopholes in there. I do know that there's some loopholes when you buy through a private seller, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. Please post it in the comments below if you know. In Arizona, I've never had a problem. I purchased multiple firearms here without issue, and I always have to fill out my that 4-page form and make sure I am who I am. I have to sit down, or and while they're looking at my information, get checked out. It's the norm. It's the norm here, and at least with the firearms that I've purchased. And in Florida, from what I hear, private seller does not have to do a background check. Please, again, correct me if I'm wrong on this. If that is the case, again, that's a loophole within the state that they would probably have to fix, I would assume. I don't even want to begin to say that I understand the whole thing to know that that's what the solution is. I'm not saying that. But I am saying there's something interesting about this gun issue not being public yet. I'd like to know where it came from. Did he buy it privately? Did he buy it through a gun seller? Did he buy it and his records showed everything clean and he didn't, because I would think with the psychiatric hospital that he was at, with the things that he said in high school, that he wouldn't be able to purchase this. He wouldn't pass the background check. I would assume anyways. That's what I would hope for anyways with somebody who's talking like this. And yeah. So unless there's something about his records that aren't being exposed to the public, we will find out, I guess. But right now, the story's moving slow. I'm kind of glad it is. I appreciate the slow burn instead of everybody just making this into a big media frenzy and everybody goes out of control. So I will say kudos to big news outlets. If that is your intent, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, because it sounds like you guys might be wanting to do your research for once and not go off of, getting people all, get their pennies in a bunch. Again, the other thing too, the prison guard trainee position that he had. When you become when you work at a prison guard, I would assume you'd have a background check. I could be wrong. Again, correct me if, provide me with these links in the bottom, people. Again, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I just like talking about it and at least spreading the word so people can start questioning things. But I mean, is it possible to become a prison guard with with no background check, and even with that, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just a crazy, insane item for me in that. So the sad part too, another thing to me also, and I was thinking about this, but there's no coincidence. I'm not trying to make a conspiracy theory here, but the women, it was only 5 women in the bank. All the victims were women. Now, initially, when I first started hearing about the story, I will admit, I was thinking he was targeting women and he must have something against women. And again, if I was to have begun reporting on this last night when not all the information came out and the information was still vague and sparse, I would have assumed that and you know, spread some false information. I don't do that. I don't like to. I like to only say what I've read and what I know and understand and what I think about all those things that I've read and understand at that point. So 5 women. It's just very sad that it had to be 5 women. You know, again, I don't want anybody getting killed, but I mean, that was just kind of sad to read. You know, you know, as a man myself, I shiver at the thought of you know, losing my sisters and you know, definitely lost my mom, and it was very, very sad. Now, again, the last thing that I want to say here is his father. His father said that you know, he was telling reporters, I think his name is Josh Xaver, told reporters that he ended up having problems, you know, when he was younger, but he didn't elaborate on those. So I think the public deserves to know, you know, with what has happened here, the public deserves to know what specific problems he was referring to. Were they things that were reported in his juvenile record? Were they problems that he had at home? Or were they problems that probably didn't even cater to this issue here? We should know. You know, you bring it up, we should know. There's 5 people who have already been dead because of this, so I think the public deserves some answers. That's about it, people. You know, it's a very sad scenario, very sad story. My heart goes out to the families, all of them, and I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. What have you been following the story? Do you appreciate the fact that the MSM is kind of slow burning this until they find out more? Do you think it's another Parkland scenario where you know, this kid probably was able to get this firearm? I don't know. Just so many questions that I have. Just kind of want to throw this out there, let you guys know what's going on. Try to make a little concise video about it. Other than that, appreciate you guys watching. Like, hate, subscribe, unsubscribe. I love it all. Peace out.